A great comeback and an equally as stunning collapse for the Timberwolves. What happened late against the Nuggets next?
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend. And, man, an instant classic on Christmas Day night into the morning of the 26th because the game started so late and took forever. And overtime, just a billion points scored in overtime in this one. But an instant classic to be sure. We're going to talk a lot about Anthony Edwards and Nikola Jokic trading blow for blow. Yeah, we'll address some officiating stuff. Obviously, that was an issue late. We'll talk about the Timberwolves defense, the problems they had trying to guard the Jokic-Murray two-man game, which is not unique to Minnesota, but frustrating nonetheless. We'll talk about, really, I don't typically like to go blow by blow, but there's some big possessions down the stretch in both regulation and overtime that I want to talk through regarding what happened, like a big Rudy mistake, a big Randle mistake, some big officiating mistakes. Ant ultimately gets ejected. Like, there's so much to get through in this game. I'm going to try and hit it all. And then, of course, as usual, we'll close with individual studs and duds. But so much to get to in what really, truly was an instant classic. If you enjoy basketball, and if you enjoy Scott Foster, honestly, this was a really, really exciting, fun game, all things considered. So a lot to get to. Big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right. So, setting the stage for this one, we know the Nuggets were shorthanded. I got to acknowledge that off the top. Obviously, no Cam Johnson, still no Christian Brown, still no Aaron Gordon for this team. So, on a macro level, and I'll hit this really quickly, and I guess there's no better time to hit it than now. It stinks to lose to a team like Denver, an opportunity to win, to cut into. Now the Nuggets have the season tiebreaker against Minnesota with 3 of the 5 starters missing. Like, that's not great. And, Minnesota should have won this game given that. However, being on the road on Christmas, playing at altitude, 1-game road trip in the middle of a longer homestand, and then again on a macro level, like if you came into this saying, OKC, Milwaukee, New York, and Denver, and they win 3 out of 4, you feel pretty good about that. Obviously, we know no Giannis, no Brunson, et cetera, no Anunoby for the Knicks. Like, that does matter. But before the season, just like how I thought, before the season, Minnesota might only have 7 losses on New Year's Day. We would have all taken that. They lost a lot of games along the way that nobody thought they'd lose. They lost to Phoenix twice, right? But then if you had looked at this stretch of 4 games and said they're going to go 3-1 against OKC, Milwaukee, the Knicks, and Denver, okay, we'll take that. And there's a real chance they win their next 3 against Brooklyn, Chicago, and Atlanta, and then they go into, the new calendar year at 23-11, and everybody's okay. They're only 4 games worse than what I thought was a pretty bold prediction, that they'd be a 7-loss team on New Year's Day. I think that's still on the table. So on a macro level, the sky is not falling for Minnesota because of this loss. That said, there's some concerning trends that cropped up in this game. And so we're going to hit those major things here in a little bit, and actually really along the way as we go kind of not entirely blow by blow, but break down really the end of this game, because there were some pretty intriguing possessions. I guess the best place to start is near the end, and we're going to go backwards a little bit later and talk about some of the defensive issues along the way, but they were the same issues that basically that the Wolves had at the end. So I want to start there because that is that's where things got really interesting. Minnesota was down by 15 points with under 6 minutes to play in this game. This was a 15-point game at the 5:54 mark. The Nuggets were dominated. Jokic already had his triple-double easily. This thing kind of felt like it was over. And then a couple silly turnovers by the Nuggets. Ant hits a couple shots. Randle scores 7 straight himself, gets a 3-point play. It's now a 4-point game. Ant hits a big 3. Ant hits another shot. And now it's a 1-point game. So this is where I thought things started to go a little bit off the rails for Minnesota. Minnesota's down one with 2 minutes to play. Denver runs an inverted pick and roll where Jokic is or Murray's screening and then fading, really flaring out to the right wing, and the Wolves screw up the coverage. And I believe it was Ant and McDaniels. They don't communicate. McDaniels, I think it was, gets to Murray late to contest the three, and it ends up being a three-pointer to push the lead from 1 point to 4 points, with which 2 minutes left. That really matters. Then on the other end, Randle travels. Just a silly, like, they don't usually call this travel at this stage in the game, but they did. He shuffled his feet before he takes off from the perimeter on the left-hand side. They call the travel. So now it's Nuggets ball with up four with a minute and a half to play. Thankfully, they don't score. There's a bit of a back and forth, and eventually the Nuggets go up 6 with 47 seconds left after Minnesota fails to box out on the rebound, and that was actually DiVincenzo's miss. He didn't rotate down to box out the low man in this, or I should say box out the guy in the dunker, which in this case was Spencer Jones, two-way guy who was starting for Denver because of all the injuries. Gobert goes to contest the shot. DiVincenzo doesn't come down and box out. He gets a tip in. It's now a 6-point game with 47 seconds left. And then the Timberwolves miss on the other end. They get an offensive foul. Ant gets fouled. So this is going to get lost in the shuffle too. Yeah, they came back from 15 points down. They were down 6 with 30 seconds left in regulation. But Jamal Murray commits a silly foul on Ant. He makes all 3 free throws, which he's struggled a little from the line lately, so that isn't trivial. And then DiVincenzo steals the ball from Jamal Murray. Like, if this goes slightly differently, we're talking about how Jamal Murray chokes this game away for Denver with the shooting foul on Anthony Edwards in the corner just below the break, and then the turnover when DiVincenzo gets the steal. So this is with about 8 seconds left, and it's basically McDaniels and DiVincenzo and Ant running a 3-on-1, and DiVincenzo had Ant as a trail for a 3 that could have tied the game, but instead he hits ahead to to Jaden McDaniels for an easy dunk. In the moment, like, if all things are equal, I think you slightly would prefer the trail 3 from Ant. And I said on X, I didn't mind what he did, because if you get too cute there, you turn the ball over, you miss the 3, the game's over, right? Just get the sure bucket and extend the game. And it was a sure dunk for Jaden, and that's what happened. They got the dunk, because then what happens is either they miss a free throw, maybe you get a steal, and then you get a chance to go for the win. If you get a steal, you win with a 2. You can shoot a layup or you get a dunk to win the game. If they miss a free throw on the other end, then you call an ATO. You still have a timeout in your pocket to run a 3 for the win or a 2 for the tie. In this case, Jokic did make both free throws. The Wolves call a timeout. They call a great play for Anthony Edwards to get open in the corner. I don't want this to get lost in it either. The shot was crazy, but Chris Finch and the Timberwolves drew it up so that they got the switch. Randle set the screen so that then Murray would end up, because they knew that's where Murray was going to be. Murray would get switched onto Ant. And then instead of sprinting to the corner, Ant had the right cadence on his cut where he kind of lingered like he was going to come to the ball. And everyone knows he likes to shoot right above the break on the left side of the floor. It's his favorite shot. Hit that big shot the other night from there. He said he shoots it 100 times a day or whatever he said. That's his favorite shot. And so I think they were setting that up where everybody thought that's where he was going to go. So he kind of feigned like he was going to go there. He hesitated and then cut to the corner. The timing was perfect so that he caught the ball as he was turning to shoot the turnaround from the corner, kept his feet behind the line. There was no chance for Murray to foul because Ant never really had his back turned to the basket with the basketball, which is, of course, when you want to foul up 3 if you're the defense. But Ant turned and caught all in one motion, shot the 3, made it. It was a 3, tied the game, went to overtime. Just an exciting sequence down the stretch. And I thought, as good as Minnesota executed offensively and by getting that steal, those, the inverted pick and roll, this is something that they've struggled with, and they struggle with it in overtime. That was a problem down the stretch. And, a little bit of the shot selection there, but then the final couple of possessions, they executed far better than they have really for much of the season. They've been so much better lately. And then in overtime, Ant scores 7 of the first 9 points. The Wolves go on a 9-0 run. Ant doesn't pass the ball in the Wolves' first 3 half-court possessions, which is fine. Ant makes a 2. They get a stop on the other end. Ant gets fouled, makes a couple free throws. The Wolves get a seemingly innocuous delay of game violation, which I thought was actually a silly call in the moment. Turns out it mattered later in the game when they got another delay of game foul in a critical moment that then led to Anthony Edwards getting frustrated and later getting kicked out of the game. We'll talk more about that in a second, but in a seemingly innocuous delay of game violation, a minute into overtime with the Wolves up 4, DiVincenzo gets fouled in transition, makes a couple free throws. They're up 6. Ant hits a three. They're up 9. The Nuggets call timeout with 3 minutes to play in overtime. Minnesota's up 9. And then the wheels fall off once again. We'll get into what happened there. We'll talk a little bit about the officiating. I don't want to harp on it too much. If you're a regular listener to the show, I want to give it its appropriate due. When it matters, and we have to talk about it. We can't pretend like it didn't happen. Officiating is not why the Wolves lost this game, but it certainly was a contributing factor in overtime. And also, as happens sometimes, it really got in the Wolves' heads and contributed to how the Wolves reacted to the officiating and to the game overall, to what was happening to them down the stretch. So we'll get into all that next, and we'll close today by talking individual studs and duds. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk. It is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by our friends at DoorDash. The season is heating up now that we're a little over a couple months in. Christmas is kind of the unofficial start to the next phase of the season, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out, like last night. DoorDash becomes your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert now. Those late-night interviews hit. Last night was real late, and suddenly you need chips. DoorDash is built exactly for that. If the group chat says pull up, DoorDash makes sure you show up prepared. Snacks, cups, even a phone charger for the friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. Big thank you once again for making Locked On Wolves your first listen of the day. And of course, thanks once again as well for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We could not do it without you, the Everydayers. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. Access to an ad-free audio, access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Wolves, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. Plus, you get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Go to lockedonwolves.supercast.com. That's lockedonwolves.supercast.com to take part in the Everydayer Club. All right, so in overtime, the Timberwolves are up 9, 3 minutes to play. Jokic hits a 3 out of a timeout. Nice play call again from David Adelman and the Nuggets. Then Ant comes down and shoots a little bit of an ill-advised pull-up 3. Of course, he'd been piping hot. I get it on some level. But it was the kind of the first of a string of like, these dudes are not trying to get to the hoop, right? They're just shooting threes. He misses it. Gobert gets the rebound, tries to go right back up. He had a wide open man in the corner. I can't remember who it was in the right corner. I think it might have been McDaniels. And had a wide open guy. Or no, I guess McDaniels said, no, I think it was McDaniels. Doesn't kick it out, tries to shoot, gets knocked away by Jamal Murray. Maybe was a foul, whatever. They're probably not going to call that. Nuggets get the ball, come down, and Tim Hardaway makes a 3. Now it's a 3-point game. Happens extremely quickly, right? Randle gets fouled, makes the free throws, then Jokic makes a 3. It's now a 2-point game. And that's when things like really got messed up for the Wolves. Another ill-advised pull-up for Anthony Edwards. Gobert tries a tip dunk where he's trying to he gets the ball in his left hand, like down near his waist, and he tries to fling it up over his head and in instead of coming down with the ball, gathering it, going up and dunking it, or kicking it to somebody outside the arc. Doesn't do it. Misses the tip slam. 2-point game. Nuggets come down and score. It's now a tie game. And then Julius Randle shoots a pull-up with like 15 on the shot clock, 16 on the shot clock, shoots a pull-up 3 from the right side. Julius Randle, who outside of free throws hasn't scored in like 20 minutes in real time and like 10 minutes in game time, just a terrible shot selection from a dude that's sub 33%, like well below league average from outside the arc, has been shooting the ball terribly from the field here recently. That's just a bad shot. It's worse than both of the Ant shots. Ant's a really good three-point shooter, and he was hot. Julius Randle shooting the shot was an abomination. Just terrible shot selection. And I'm usually not like a don't shoot a 3 early in the shot clock guy. Like if it's a good shot, it's a good shot. If he's a good shooter and it's open, shoot it. Randle's not a good shooter, and he wasn't open. And it was early in the shot clock. And the Wolves were reeling. The Nuggets were rolling. The Wolves were reeling. It's a tie game. Nuggets get the ball. They call timeout. Well, actually, there was a challenge, I think, on the I forget what was. Oh, that's what it was. The Nuggets get the ball, and then that's when Gobert fouls out. That was the play in a tie game where Jokic gets sloppy with the ball, which he does, right? He tries to tap it out to Murray. Murray goes on the floor, tries to roll over and pass it. DiVincenzo and Gobert in the vicinity. Gobert tips the ball away, and then Scott Foster calls a clear path. Well, actually, it wasn't clear path, but he calls a foul on Jokic in transition, essentially for grabbing Gobert's arm as Gobert tries to track down the ball. So it would have been free throws for Gobert in a tie game with just under a minute to play. Instead, the Nuggets challenge. And on the review, I thought, okay, fine. Jokic doesn't foul Gobert. I'm fine with that. But they better not call this foul on Gobert for knocking the ball away from Jokic, because it's pretty much simultaneous contact with Jokic's arm and the ball. Typically, when that happens and the ball gets contacted, period, they're going to say, look, that's a tip away. It's incidental contact, play on. In this case, Gobert had the ball. So it would have been, take the foul away from Jokic, take the free throws away from Gobert. That's fine. Take the free throws away from Gobert. That's fine. Should have been side out, Minnesota ball, tie game. Give Gobert the steal, but no free throws, right? Instead, they add the proximate foul on Rudy Gobert for knocking the ball away from Jokic, which I thought was like letter of the law. You could argue that that's a foul, but even then it's still a bit hazy. And so to add the proximate foul, what happened to clear and obvious? Like, I'm pretty sure that that's supposed to be the bellwether, not the bellwether, kind of the line, right? Like the criteria. That's what I'm looking for. Like, that's the criteria. It should be clear and obvious to add a proximate foul. But in my opinion, it wasn't. It was bang, bang. There's a lot of basketball there. And instead they call the foul on Gobert, which means Gobert has now fouled out of the game. And of course the Wolves don't get free throws, and Jokic gets free throws. So it goes from Gobert free throws to Jokic free throws, and Gobert is ejected. So now Minnesota's down 2. Then Ant hits a tough shot on the other end. So it's a tie game again with 45 seconds to play. Jamal Murray hits a 3, another inverted. I think this was a dribble handoff that the Nuggets ran, which is effectively a pick and roll. The Timberwolves failed to cover it again. They're down 3. And then down the stretch, things fall apart after Anthony Edwards gets the Timberwolves get the delay of game. After Ant hits gets a dunk with 25 seconds left. He's out of bounds after the dunk, contacts the ball that Jokic is holding. Jokic makes sure the official's aware of it. And then that becomes a delay of game. Technical on Minnesota. The technical was not on Anthony Edwards. This is semantics a little bit, but the technical wasn't on Ant. The technical was on the Timberwolves for their second delay of game after the first warning, which both occurred in overtime. So again, silly mistakes by the Timberwolves that somehow always the officials catch, but they don't catch it when other teams do it, it seems. But still, that's not an excuse. Minnesota can't do that. Ant gets called for that. It's a delay of game. Then Ant gets frustrated because of that and gets ejected on one technical foul. It wasn't Scott Foster. It was one of the other officials that ejected Anthony Edwards for whatever it was he said. And then, of course, Ant had some things to say as he was leaving the floor. It was just one technical, but he was ejected. The Nuggets split the 2 technicals. So actually, like, without the delay of game and without the ejection, this thing is still a 2-point game when Jokic goes to the line, and it could have then been a 4-point game instead of a 5-point game. And Minnesota still hit a 3, and they were within 2 with 15 seconds left, but the free throw game down the stretch, ultimately the Nuggets pull away and win by 4 points. This was a combination of factors that led to the Timberwolves completely and utterly falling apart in overtime. I want to dig in on the biggest factors here in just a second. And we'll talk studs and duds. But I want to hit and maybe this is something we'll dig in on a bit more next week, because some of these are kind of ongoing issues, but Minnesota's issues guarding those inverted pick and rolls, their issues guarding on the perimeter, and some of this recurring, too cool for school stuff, which is still a problem for some reason for this Minnesota team. So we'll do all that. We'll talk individual studs and duds here as we close out the show here today. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing scores on their screens or guessing what tickets are actually going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. You can find your tickets in just a few taps. You can see the view from your seat as well before you buy. That'll make choosing your tickets easy and give you some confidence in the seats you're picking. Your prices include fees up front, so the total's clear from the start, and they also have great features like zone deals that help unlock great seats at even better value. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. All right, the biggest issues in this game, and if you're new to listening, typically I'll do my three big things after a game. This one had so much stuff down the stretch, I had to give my 2 cents on it. My three big things for this game, I'll hit them quickly. The problem is guarding late. Communication, inverted pick and roll, should basically be the same as any other pick and roll. It just blew the Timberwolves' minds that, hey, we're switching everything, right? If you just switch right away, the handoff that was basically the dagger in overtime, Ant just didn't, he went under the handoff. And you can't. You got to fight through it. You got to risk that foul on the perimeter. These dudes are so good in the two-man game. You have to fight through that. And so that's a combination of communication and / either communication or just not knowing what the scheme is. But the Wolves are switching virtually everything anyway. So he should have known that. And then also the care factor. And I'm not saying Ant didn't care in overtime, but it's an effort thing. You have to know that that's the coverage and be up on the shooter's hand. If it's Jamal Murray on the perimeter or Nikola Jokic, I don't care if they're inverting it or not. Either way, you got to be up on these guys. And now it obviously hurts to not have Rudy behind you as well. And I don't know if that was going through their mind, but in that moment, Rudy Gobert had already fouled out. That matters. Rudy was just dominant for long stretches in this game. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But problems guarding late, problems guarding the pick and roll, the inverted pick and roll, that's an issue. The care factor was an issue early in this game. Timberwolves were down, I guess, just 2 at halftime. But then they were down 14 going into the fourth quarter, and there really wasn't any reason for it outside of, missing some open threes. That certainly matters. But the lack of urgency was pretty obvious, and that's frustrating. And I get it. It was a long day, and it's Christmas and everything. I get it. But it happens far too frequently with this team. The care factor is what I would call it. The urgency factor. That's probably a better word, because I'm not suggesting that people don't care. That's not what I'm saying. It just looks that way sometimes, where the effort level isn't where it needs to be consistently for this team. And if you were going to say, look, a team was down 14 heading into the fourth quarter, down 15 with 5+ to play, tied the game, down 6 with 30 seconds left, tied the game, was up 9 in overtime and still lost. I mean, name a team that happens to that's not the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you could have told me this year's Wolves, last year's Wolves, the year before. I mean, it just happens far too often for this team. And then the last thing would be perimeter defense, guarding the point of attack. Jamal Murray early in this game, especially, it wasn't good point of attack defense for Minnesota. DiVincenzo, once again, I think has struggled there. Ant was okay at times. It was a bit hit and miss for Ant in this game. I thought that Bones Highland competed a little bit on the perimeter. He has been for the most part. TJ Shannon got blown by Bruce Brown and some dudes, which is not great. It is important to mention he was ruled out in the third quarter with foot soreness. He had missed some time with foot soreness earlier this year. So surely there was some sort of injury-related thing there, but he was getting beat off the dribble badly in this game. That wasn't good. And Conley was not good in this game. He played only 10 minutes and was a -15. Mike Conley was. The perimeter defense, the point of attack defense for the Timberwolves was just really bad. And it's never is it more obvious than when you play a team that has a guy like Jamal Murray and then other guys who are effective off the dribble too, like a Tim Hardaway Jr. And I mean, those were really the only guys this side of Jokic that did any damage in this game. I mean, Jokic had 56 of the Nuggets' 142 points in this game. And by the way, I think I saw that the Nuggets scored more points in overtime than any team has ever scored in overtime. So a lot of that was the free throw game down the stretch, but still crazy. So perimeter defense continues to be a bugaboo for this team. They've just got to be better out there. And I don't know what the solution is. Like, the solution isn't sitting on the bench, right? It's not any of the guys that didn't play in this game. It's not, but like, I guess Jalen Clark, he played only 5 minutes. Like, he would help. And I said as much on X last night. I don't understand not having two of Jalen Clark, Jaden McDaniels, and Rudy Gobert on the floor at all times, because they are your best defenders and your most consistent defenders. And to try and exist without two of the three, like, even once Rudy gets once Rudy fouls out, like, just put Jalen Clark out there. I don't care at that point. You need stops. It's a tie game. You just need stops, and Jalen Clark is going to help you do that. Okay, studs and duds quickly. Obviously, Anthony Edwards was awesome. 44 on 25 shots, 5 of 14 threes. Incredible down the stretch. 11 of 13 at the free throw line. 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He had 6 turnovers, but I mean, like, 3 of them were in the first 2 minutes of the game, and it was a lot better after that. He had 3 steals. Was really good. I know the plus minus is ugly, but that's as much to do with overtime as anything else. Or overtime, I should say, overtime really impacted that quite a bit. Again, early, I thought the defense was a bit spotty from Ant. The second quarter was obviously bad. I should mention he banged up his shoulder in the first quarter. He had 14 first quarter points and none, or maybe 2 in the second quarter. Did not look like himself. And then as the game wore on, it seemed to get a little bit better. And, who knows what that looks like after a day or two, if it stiffens up or whatever before Saturday's game. But, something to pay attention to for Ant. But he was great in this game. I don't know. Julius Randle has a good box score line. But honestly, I didn't think Julius was that good in this game. He had some good moments. I have a tough time giving him a stud, honestly. I kind of think, I thought Jaden McDaniels was better than Julius Randle in this game. And Rudy Gobert was too. So my second and third studs are going to be Jaden McDaniels, had 21 and 12 shots, had some timely buckets late, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, a couple of blocks, was a +4. I thought he was very good. And then Rudy Gobert was awesome. Obviously, Jokic went off. That's not a Gobert statistic. That is Jokic being Jokic, and the Timberwolves overall having schematic breakdowns defensively. I mean, Gobert only had 9 points, but he had 12 boards and 6 blocks in this game. He was a +18 in a game the Wolves lost by 4. He had the best plus minus in the entire game, better than Jokic, better than anybody else on the Nuggets. Gobert was phenomenal. And I know, I'll say this before anybody, individual players, single game plus minus is so noisy. It is. But when it's that dramatic, it can tell you something. We've talked about the on-off stuff with Rudy quite a bit in the past, and trust me, we're going to more. Rudy Gobert was great. Watch back the first half of this game. When Gobert's in the game, and especially when Gobert's in and Jokic is out, there's nobody doing any damage in the paint. Gobert's dominating the glass. He's I should say controlling the glass, dominating the paint on the defensive side of the floor. Just a really strong game for Rudy Gobert. Once again, duds in this game. I feel bad for TJ Shannon, given the fact that apparently he is injured, but I mean, he was not good in 10 minutes. Missed all 3 of his shots. Did not look comfortable. Mike Conley, 10 minutes, no points. Was a -15. I don't know how Mike Conley managed to be a -15 in 10 minutes, but he did. Those guys both get duds in this game, in my mind. So, big picture. Winning 3 out of 4 against what looked like a murderer's row, Denver, Milwaukee, the Knicks, and OKC, is great. I know there's caveats. I know there's no Jalen Brunson, no Anunoby, no Giannis. I get it. That does matter. But still, winning 3 out of 4 it also matters. It hurts too, by the way, because beating Denver, Minnesota would have been 3rd in the West, or 4th in the West if they'd beaten Denver. So that does hurt. But now you look up and it's Brooklyn, Chicago, Atlanta. You should be looking up on New Year's Day, a week from now, 6 days from now, and this team should be 23-11. And if you had said this team would be 23-11 on New Year's Day, most of us would have taken it. Still a little bit worse than I would have expected, but I think we would have taken it. And then the road trip isn't crazy either. Miami, Washington, Miami, a struggling Cleveland team for 2, a home and home there. And then it gets tougher again with San Antonio and Houston and another San Antonio. So, and the back-to-backs come back too. We haven't had a back-to-back in a minute. The next one is next weekend, next Saturday and Sunday at Miami, at Washington. So still important to bank some wins. Hopefully Ant's shoulder's okay. And, we Nets game Saturday night at Target Center to end this stretch of 6 games and 7 at home. And then it's back out on the road for 4. So an important game Saturday. We'll have a live postcast following Wolves Nets. Our guys Luke and Jack will break it down live on YouTube, Locked On Wolves YouTube, and then that audio will be right here on this feed as well. I'll be back on Monday. We'll talk a little Nets on Monday's show, post that game, and then also get you ready for Wolves Bulls on Monday night. Have not seen the Bulls yet this year. They've had a roller coaster season, so we'll break down that matchup on Monday's show as well. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And a reminder to sign up for the Everydayer Club if you haven't already. If you still need a last-minute holiday gift, or maybe someone keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedonwolves.supercast.com. Of course, this show is also part of that very same Locked On Podcast Network, your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.